Arthur Vane is the most dangerous man of all. He is a man of stone. He is a man who takes what he wants and shows no mercy. But tonight, a single sight stops his heart in its tracks. On a cold, lonely park bench sits a girl named Rose. She is broken. She is crying. She has lost every reason to live. Arthur should have driven past her. He should have ignored her pain. But something deep inside his dark soul sparked to life. He didn't just stop. He sat down, and in that freezing moment, a terrifying obsession was born. He didn't just want to save her. He wanted to own her. What happens when a monster decides to become a protector? You are about to find out. Before we continue the story of a love that was never meant to be, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. It helps us bring more of these stories to you every day. Also, we would love to know where you are joining us from. Leave a comment below and tell us your city or country. We read every single one. Now, let's go back to that cold park bench and see how a monster fell for an angel. The fog was thick and damp. It felt like the city was trying to swallow Rose whole. She pulled her thin sweater tighter around her chest. It did nothing. The cold had already settled into her bones. She looked at the small suitcase by her feet. It was old. The zipper was broken. Inside were the remains of a life that had fallen apart in less than a month. Rose closed her eyes. She tried to remember the smell of her mother's kitchen. She tried to remember the sound of laughter. But those memories felt like they belonged to someone else. Now, all she had was the sound of the wind and the sight of her own breath in the air. Then she heard the footsteps. They were slow. They were heavy. They sounded expensive. She didn't look up. She didn't have the energy to be afraid. If someone wanted to hurt her, let them. She had nothing left to lose. The footsteps stopped right in front of her. A shadow fell over her. It was a large shadow. It felt like a wall. "It is too cold to be out here," a voice said. The voice was like deep velvet. It was calm, but held a power that made the air feel still. Rose slowly raised her head. The man standing there was like something out of a movie. He was tall. His suit was dark and perfectly tailored. His face was handsome, but it was hard. It looked like it had been carved from stone. His eyes were the color of the midnight sky. They weren't looking at her with pity. They were looking at her with an intensity that made her heart skip a beat. "I have nowhere else to go," Rose whispered. Arthur looked at her. He saw her red eyes. He saw the way her hands were shaking. He saw the tiny, cheap ring on her finger that was turning her skin green. He felt a sudden, sharp pain in his chest. It was a feeling he hadn't felt in years. It was protective. It was possessive. "Why are you crying?" he asked. He didn't wait for an invitation. He sat down on the bench. He was so close that Rose could smell him. He smelled like cedar wood and rain. He looked out of place on the dirty, wooden bench. He looked like a king sitting on a beggar's stool. "My mother passed away," Rose said. The words felt heavy. "The hospital took everything. Then the landlord took the rest. I lost my job because I was grieving, and the man I was going to marry, he decided he didn't want a girl with nothing." Arthur's jaw tightened. He looked at the suitcase. What was his name? "It doesn't matter," Rose said. "It matters to me," Arthur said. Rose looked at him, confused. "Why? You don't even know me." Arthur turned his head. He looked directly into her eyes. Rose felt like she couldn't move. She felt like a bird caught in a net. But for some reason, she didn't want to fly away. "I know enough," Arthur said. "I know that you are alone. I know that the world has been cruel to you. And I know that I am not going to let you stay on this bench for one more minute." He stood up. He reached out his hand. It was a large hand. His palm was broad. His fingers were long. "Come with me," he said. "I can't," Rose said. "I don't know who you are." "My name is Arthur," he said, "and I am the man who is going to fix this. All of it." Rose looked at his hand. Then she looked at the dark park behind her. She looked at the empty streets. She had two choices. She could stay here and freeze, or she could take the hand of a stranger who looked like he could destroy the world if he wanted to. She reached out. Her small, cold hand disappeared into his. His grip was warm. It was firm. It felt like the first solid thing she had touched in weeks. Arthur picked up her suitcase with his other hand. He walked her to the car. The driver was already holding the door open. He looked at Rose with wide eyes, but he said nothing. He knew better than to question Arthur. The car was warm. The seats were soft leather. Rose sank into the cushion. She felt like she was in a different world. Arthur sat next to her. He didn't speak. He just watched her. He watched the way she looked out the window. He watched the way she tucked a stray hair behind her ear. He was already thinking about what he was going to do. He was thinking about the apartment building she had been kicked out of. He was thinking about the man who had left her. "Where are we going?" Rose asked. Her voice was small. "To a hotel," Arthur said. "A safe one. You will have a room. You will have food. You will sleep. Tomorrow, we will talk about the rest." They arrived at a grand hotel. It was the kind of place Rose had only seen from the outside. The lobby was filled with gold and marble. Arthur walked her to the elevator. He took her to the top floor. He opened the door to a suite. It was bigger than any house Rose had ever seen. "Stay here," Arthur said. "The kitchen is stocked. There are clothes in the bedroom. They might be a bit large, but they are warm. I will have a woman come by in the morning with things that fit you." "Why are you doing this?" Rose asked again. She was standing in the middle of the room, feeling like she didn't belong. Arthur walked toward her. He stopped just inches away. He reached out and touched a tear that was still on her cheek. "Because when I saw you on that bench, the world stopped," he said. His voice was a low growl. "I have everything, Rose. I have money. I have power. But I have never seen anything as beautiful as you, even when you are broken." He turned and left the room. Rose heard the door click shut. She was alone, but she wasn't cold. She walked to the window and looked out at the city. She saw the black car pull away. She didn't know it, but Arthur wasn't going home. He drove to a dark part of the city. He stopped in front of a small, dirty apartment building. This was where Rose had lived. He got out of the car. Two of his men were already waiting for him. "The landlord," Arthur said. "Bring him to me." A few minutes later, a man in a bathrobe was dragged out into the street. He was shaking. He knew who Arthur was. Everyone knew. "Mr. Vane." The landlord stammered. I didn't do anything." Arthur walked up to him. He was much taller than the landlord. He looked down at him with pure hatred. "You kick a girl out tonight," Arthur said. "A girl named Rose. She didn't pay the rent." The man cried. "I have a business to run." Arthur grabbed the man by the collar. He lifted him off the ground. She was grieving. She was alone. And you threw her suitcase into the dirt. Arthur leaned in close. "You don't own this building anymore. By tomorrow morning, the papers will show that I own it. And you are going to leave this city. If I ever see your face again, you won't have a face left to show. Do you understand?" The man nodded frantically. Arthur dropped him. "Now give me the names," Arthur said. The name of the man she was going to marry. The name of the baker who fired her. Arthur spent the rest of the night working. He didn't feel tired. He felt alive. He felt a purpose he had never known. By the time the sun started to rise, the man who had left Rose was sitting in a jail cell on a charge he didn't understand. The bakery where Rose worked was suddenly under new management. Arthur went back to the hotel. He sat in the hallway outside Rose's room. He didn't want to wake her. He just wanted to be near her. He sat on a chair and watched the door. He was a lion guarding his prize. He was obsessed. He knew it was crazy. He had only known her for a few hours, but he felt like he had known her forever. He felt like she was a part of him that had been missing. Inside the room, Rose woke up. She saw the sunlight. She saw the beautiful furniture. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming. Then she remembered the man with the dark eyes. She got out of bed and walked to the door. She opened it slowly. She gasped when she saw Arthur sitting there. "You're still here," she said. Arthur stood up. He looked tired, but his eyes were bright. "I told you I was going to fix it." "You should sleep," Rose said. "I don't need sleep," Arthur said. "I need to know you are okay." He walked into the room. He looked at the breakfast that had been delivered. "Eat, then we're going to my house." "Your house?" Rose asked. "You aren't staying in a hotel," Arthur said. "It's not safe. You are coming with me. I have a house by the ocean. It is quiet. You can rest there." Rose didn't argue. She realized that she wanted to go with him. She felt safe when he was near. They drove for an hour. The house was magnificent. It sat on a cliff overlooking the blue water. There were gardens filled with roses. "I had them planted this morning," Arthur said as they walked through the garden. Rose looked at him in shock. "The roses? This morning?" "I wanted you to feel at home," he said. The house was full of servants. They all bowed to Rose. They treated her like a queen. Arthur showed her to her room. It had a balcony that faced the sea. "This is yours," he said. "Everything in this house is yours." The next few weeks were peaceful. Rose started to heal. Her cheeks got some color back. She started to smile. And every time she smiled, Arthur felt his heart melt a little more. He was always with her. He didn't go to his office. He worked from home. He had his meetings in the library, so he could watch her in the garden. He bought her books. He bought her dresses. He bought her jewelry that cost more than her old apartment building. But Rose didn't care about the money. She cared about the way he looked at her. She cared about the way he listened when she talked about her mother. "Why me, Arthur?" she asked one night. They were sitting by the fireplace. The wind was howling outside, but they were warm. Arthur reached out and took her hand. He traced the lines on her palm. "I have spent my life in the dark, Rose," he said. "I have done things I am not proud of. I thought I was dead inside, but then I saw you. You were so sad, but you were so brave. You were like a light in that dark park. I knew I couldn't let that light go out." He looked at her with such love that Rose felt tears in her eyes. "I'm not a light, Arthur," she said. "I'm just a girl. To the world, maybe," Arthur said. "But to me, you are everything. I am obsessed with you, Rose. I want to know every thought you have. I want to see every smile you give. I want to be the reason you are happy." It was a lot to hear. It was intense, but Rose didn't feel scared. She felt loved. She leaned over and kissed him. It was a soft, sweet kiss. Arthur held her like she was made of glass. But the world Arthur lived in was not a kind one. His enemies were watching. They saw that the King of Shadows had a weakness. They saw the girl in the house on the cliff. One day, Arthur had to leave. It was an emergency. He told Rose to stay inside. He left 20 guards at the house. "I will be back in 2 hours," he said. He kissed her forehead. "Do not open the door for anyone." Rose watched him drive away. She felt a strange sense of worry. She tried to read a book, but she couldn't focus. She walked to the window and looked at the ocean. Suddenly, she heard a loud noise. It was an explosion. The ground shook. She ran to the hallway. Smoke was filling the air. She heard shouting. She heard gunfire. "Rose, stay back," one of the guards yelled. But it was too late. A group of men burst through the front door. They were wearing masks. They moved fast. Rose tried to run, but a man grabbed her. He was strong. He put a cloth over her mouth. Rose tried to fight, but everything went dark. When she woke up, she was in a cold, damp room. Her hands were tied. She was sitting on a wooden chair. A man was standing in front of her. He was smiling. He had a scar across his cheek. "So, you are the one," he said. "The girl who turned Arthur Vane into a soft man." "He's not soft," Rose spat. The man laughed. "He is. He stopped killing. He stopped taking territory. He spends all his time buying you flowers. He's weak now, and because he is weak, I am going to take everything from him." He leaned in close. "I'm going to start by taking you." Rose felt a surge of anger. She wasn't the broken girl on the bench anymore. Arthur had given her back her strength. "He will come for me," she said. "And when he does, you will wish you had never been born." The man slapped her. Rose's head snapped to the side. She felt the sting on her cheek, but she didn't cry. "We'll see," the man said. Back at the house, Arthur arrived to find a scene of destruction. His guards were down. The front door was gone, and Rose was missing. He didn't scream. He didn't cry. He became cold. He became the monster the city feared. He walked into the middle of the room. He picked up a rose that had been crushed on the floor. He squeezed it until the thorns drew blood from his palm. "Find them," he said. His men moved like a silent army. Arthur didn't wait for information. He knew who had done this. There was only one man brave enough and stupid enough to touch what belonged to him. A man named Victor. Arthur drove to an old warehouse by the docks. He didn't call the police. He didn't wait for backup. He walked through the front door with a gun in each hand. The guards at the door didn't even have time to raise their weapons. Arthur moved with a speed that was terrifying. He wasn't just a man. He was a force of nature. He cleared the first floor in minutes. He walked up the stairs. He could hear voices. Is he here yet? Victor asked. Not yet, boss. Another voice said. Arthur kicked the door open. The wood splintered. Victor turned around, shocked. He reached for his gun, but Arthur was faster. A bullet hit Victor in the shoulder. He fell back, screaming. Arthur walked into the room. His eyes were dead. He looked at Rose. She was tied to the chair. She had a bruise on her cheek. When Arthur saw that bruise, something inside him broke. He didn't look at Victor. He walked straight to Rose. He pulled out a knife and cut her ropes. Are you okay? He whispered. I'm fine, Rose said. Her voice was shaking, but she was brave. Arthur turned to Victor. Victor was crawling on the floor, trying to reach his gun. Arthur walked over and stepped on Victor's hand. He heard the bones crack. You touched her, Arthur said. It was just business. Victor yelled. No, Arthur said. Business is money. Business is power. Rose is my life, and you don't get to touch my life. Arthur didn't kill him. Death was too easy. He called his men. Take him, Arthur said. I want him to spend the rest of his life in a place where he never sees the sun. I want him to remember this day every time he breathes. Arthur turned back to Rose. He picked her up in his arms. He carried her out of the warehouse. He didn't put her down until they were back in the car. He held her so tight it hurt. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry I wasn't there. You came for me, Rose said. That's all that matters. They went back to the house on the cliff. Arthur stayed by her side for 3 days. He didn't leave the room. He watched her sleep. He fed her. He cleaned the bruise on her cheek with the gentlest touch. You don't have to stay here, Arthur, Rose said on the 4th day. They were sitting on the balcony. I am never leaving you again, Arthur said. People will say you are crazy, Rose said with a small smile. Let them, Arthur said. I was crazy the moment I saw you crying on that bench. I was crazy the moment I realized I couldn't live without you. He looked out at the ocean. I used to think that power was about how many people feared you, but I was wrong. Power is having someone worth protecting. Power is knowing that no matter how dark the world gets, I have you. Rose leaned her head on his shoulder. She looked at the roses in the garden. They were blooming. They were strong. She wasn't the girl with the broken suitcase anymore. She was the woman who had tamed a king. Arthur looked at her. He reached into his pocket. He pulled out a small box. He didn't get down on one knee. He didn't make a big speech. He just opened the box. Inside was a ring. It wasn't the cheap one she used to wear. It was a diamond that looked like a drop of sunlight. I want the world to know, Arthur said. I want them to know that you are Vane. I want them to know that you are mine, and I am yours. Rose looked at the ring. Then she looked at the man who had saved her. Yes, she whispered. Arthur slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. The city still had its secrets. The park bench was still there, sitting under the flickering light. Other people would sit there. Other people would cry. But Rose would never be one of them. She had found a love that was fierce. She had found a man who was obsessed with her happiness. And in the arms of the King of Shadows, she had finally found the light. Arthur and Rose lived their lives far from the darkness of the city. They built a world of their own, a world filled with laughter and gardens and a love that never faded. Because sometimes the best things in life start at 3 a.m. Sometimes a broken heart is just a way for a new story to begin. We hope you enjoyed this journey with Arthur and Rose. It's a powerful reminder that no matter how low you feel, there is always hope. You never know who is watching or who might step out of the shadows to change your life. If this story moved you, please give us a thumbs up. It helps more people find our channel. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button now. You won't want to miss our next story. Before you go, don't forget to tell us in the comments where you are joining us from. We love our global family. Thank you for spending your time with us. Until next time, stay safe, stay hopeful, and remember, your story isn't over yet. Take care, everyone.